If you've ever wanted to work more by referral, in other words, get more and more of your ideal clients coming at you, wanting to work with you, there's probably a huge untapped opportunity that maybe you haven't thought of, or for sure you haven't fully exploited. And that opportunity is that of working by professional referral. You see, it's become so common in professional service industries to say, I work by referral, I work word of mouth, right? But all too often, we don't actually intentionally say I work by professional referral. In other words, our referrals come more and more from other professionals in neighboring industries and even in our own industry. In this episode, I interview one of the best in the entire nation who's built her business by professional referral. I'm thrilled to have you meet her. She's a wonderful person. She's someone who I've gotten to know more and more over time, have so much respect for her and what she's building. And it's going to be of great benefit to you. If you want to grow more and more your business by referral, this is the episode for you. Stay tuned. It's going to be a great episode. Welcome back to the Think Bigger Real Estate Podcast, where big thinking, high achieving real estate agents come to build successful businesses and significant lives. And I'm without my lovely co-host today, but I have a lovely guest who I'm super excited to meet. So, or for you all to meet, for those of you who don't know her, Aubrey Martin, thank you so much for coming on to the Think Bigger Real Estate Podcast today.
Thank you so much for the invitation, Justin. It's always such a pleasure to chat with you.
Likewise. I know we've known each other lightly, right? But recently we've had a chance to get to know each other better. We get to spend time together almost every week. For those who don't know, I run a company called ProInsight, which is a platform that helps those professionals who serve real estate agents to really connect with other professionals for the purpose of generating more referrals from other professionals. And in that process, I didn't realize what a superstar you were at this. But since this new role and this opportunity to help lead this company, it's really put a magnifying glass on your business, Aubrey. And I've been so impressed because you're such a model citizen when it comes to these things. I'm like, oh my goodness, how do we just recreate Aubrey Martin all over the country? Because that's exactly what we're trying to do. So I'm excited for this community to get to know you and how you've done what you've done. It's really incredible. So let's dive into it a little bit. Tell us a little bit about your business. How long have you been in the real estate industry, Aubrey?
Yeah, so I've been licensed since July of 2017, so just about 7 years or so. And when I got into the business, I had just moved back to Oregon after, about a 14-year absence. So when I came back to Oregon, I had really no sphere whatsoever and no experience in real estate. But I'm an individual agent. I have my own company. My husband is my director of operations. He lost his job during the pandemic and decided to come work with me. And so he does all my photography and marketing. And then my children are actually on payroll as well. Something that's a little unique about my business is I partner with another solo agent within the market center who also will help with stagings and some showings and all of that good stuff too. And I also have a transaction coordinator. So I'm a solo agent with a whole lot of leverage because I also understand what I don't do well.
Yeah, that's so good. Tell us a little bit about what your business looks like now. Like, how many families are you serving roughly on an annual basis?
Yeah, so generally anywhere between 50 and 75 families a year. I'm licensed in Oregon and Washington. And so my business, because it is via referral, which we'll get into, but I go where my clients go. So I'm a little all over the place as far as geographically. This year, I am capping my families at 60 because really above 60, I start to get a little bit of stress. So 60 is my sort of limit. 75 is what I did in 2021, and I thought I might die. So 60 is good for me, and I'm actually pretty darn close right now to shutting this off for the rest of the year because I've already sort of committed to that amount of clients.
This is such foreign territory for most every agent out there of like, I'm full for the year. Sorry, hop in line. Now, I actually, it's so refreshing to hear that, because really the stereotype of real estate agents is that they are always trying to convince people that it's a great time to sell, even maybe when it's not, right? And what I heard you just say is that, just like it might not be the right opportunity for somebody to buy or sell right now based on market conditions, it may or may not, but you're very comfortable telling people the truth. And you're also very comfortable telling people that like, hey, I'm at capacity for this year, right? I can help you find another great agent. But my firm, Martin Real Estate, is at capacity for us to maintain the level of service that allows us to have grown to that kind of production in 7 short years, um, I can't take on anymore. Like that is a beautiful thing to hear, right? Because you just don't hear that in our industry. Now, how much of that business? I know the answer to this, but I want everyone else to hear it. How much of that business is warm market, like by referral?
Yeah, it's 100%. So I only work via referral, via either my service provider partners, via my real estate referral partners, my past clients who are looking to buy or sell again, or past clients who refer me. At this point, and actually at no point, I've never paid for leads. I'm not someone who's really adept at cold calling or door knocking or expireds, and more power to the people that focus on that as far as their lead generation. But it was never the focus of my business. I'm not necessarily great at it, so I focus on the thing that I do well, and I just do that at a very high level, which is networking. Networking and client events to keep those referrals really fresh at the top of people's minds. And also, I should mention that I do most of my events in fourth quarter, because that really sets the tone for the rest of the year. So, for example, I have a pumpkin event that's coming up in October, and then I've got my pie event that's in November. And then we do have, which we'll talk about, I think, later, but my gratitude dinner I have actually in first quarter of 2025, which is specifically for my service providers. So I really sort of bunch these up together to get as much sort of momentum for the following year, really in that last quarter and in the beginning part of first quarter of 2025.
Such a beautiful plan. So I want everyone to hear that again. She went from 0 to 75 transactions without a personal sphere in 7 short years, accepting 0 internet leads, right? And it's like, it's so interesting because I've had conversations with agents and they're like, who want to grow fast. And like the only way to do it fast is by buying the leads. And then over time, I'll take those leads, I'll turn them into clients, and then I'll begin working by referral. And I've had probably at least a handful of agents who have told me that. And to this day, they're still plugged into the internet lead machine. Like once you start down that path, in my opinion, it gets very hard to turn that off, right? It's like a drug. It's like, well, the people just call me. Now, the downside of that is that you give up maybe 40%, right? Sometimes 50% of those transactions. And so your service levels have to drop, right? You just can't work at a 50 or 60% margin. Now, it's not a total margin, but gross margin, right? I mean, in other words, giving away 40% to an internet lead company and expect to be able to maintain the same level of service as somebody who paid 0 for that, right? Who paid $0 for that lead. And so for anybody out there that says, you know what, I'm in this business, I'm ambitious, I want to grow quickly, you don't have to do it by buying leads. You can actually go about it in a very short order by doing what Aubrey has done, right? Which is by creating a professional sphere and working by professional referral. And that's really what, again, I'm so proud to have you here on the podcast today, because that's really what ProInsight wants to bring to the world, right? Is it, I think Brian Buffini did an amazing job of helping people to work by referral. In other words, take your personal sphere and turn it into a great client base. And I love him for that. I was coached by him. I've attended countless of his events. And I think that there's an opportunity to take that to another level, which is working by professional referral, right? Which is exactly what you've done. Now, how much of your business, Aubrey, comes from professional referral? So just so everybody's clear, 100% by referral. And now we're asking the question of how much of that comes from other professionals.
Yeah, so about 40% at this point, and that's coming in a lot of different service industries. So that's coming from my financial planner, from lenders, from accountants, from general contractors, from window washers. I mean, this really comes from a whole lot of different professional industries, service, and then also more of the traditional professional industries as well. So one of the things that I'm really proud of is that, in part, some of that reason is because those people have actually used me as their agent as well. And I've used them. And so we'll talk about sort of what that all sort of looks like. But this isn't by accident, it's by design. I will tell you, though, when I came up with this idea, that this was not after watching like Brian Buffini or anybody else, because I was very new to the business and there was a lot of different things that I could have chosen to do. And I didn't really know how to do any of them. So what I did is the thing that comes naturally to me, which is to connect with other small businesses and create this kind of micro economy so that you don't have to so much depend on sort of what's going on nationally or what's going on regionally. But if you commit to spending your dollars locally and they commit to spending their dollars locally with you, then we're all sort of protected. And that actually came from when we lived in Maine, and we lived there for about 13 years and we had businesses there. And I was on the board of the Chamber of Commerce and we were part of all of these buy local groups. And that's what we sort of discovered, is that if you are spending money and doing things intentionally with businesses in town, they're going to shop with you in turn, because they'd feel really badly if you always showed up at their shop and bought stuff and then they didn't come to yours. So this is really what I did when I came back to Oregon. Is I'm not reinventing the wheel here. I'm really just doing things that I'm comfortable with, which is getting in front of people, finding out about their business. I'm not talking about mine. I'm finding out about theirs, and then learning about who their ideal client is. What areas do they service? And how can I be of best service to them? Because to me, there's really not a greater joy than when I can refer someone to someone who I love, whose family I know, whose kids' names I know. I want them to succeed. And if they're going to need that service or product anyway, why not just send them to someone who I know is going to do a great job, who, gosh, they might even become friends, which would even be greater, but also who I know can provide a service that another client who I also care about is wanting. And it's not just clients. I offer this to the community with no strings attached. I have a website of directories where I'm constantly tagging services for people that I respect and whose companies that I love. And I tag them on socials. And then I put the link in for my directories and say, if you want their information, you can find it here. And what that does is, number one, is it puts a spotlight on a company that I love, but it also tags me to refresh people's memory that I'm a real estate agent. And that's what I do for the community. As far as I'm really putting the spotlight on that vendor partner, because 40% of my business comes from them. And there's a way of doing this intentionally. And the way that I do that is on social media. Whenever I have any sort of closing, I'm tagging every single person that had anything to do with that closing. So I had one today that I posted, and I posted about my accountant who was helpful in giving the seller some information that they needed because it was an estate. I'm of course tagging my title escrow people. I'm tagging my organization group, who did all of the trash removal and organization, and then also did all of the repairs to the home in preparation. So everybody, I think I tagged 8 or 10 companies, and that's how the cleaners, the stagers, everybody. And if they log into socials, they're going to see their names tagged over and over and over again. And what that does for their business is it shows that they have someone who trusts them, who refers to them, and over time, it actually sticks in people's memories about those companies to social media world.
You've not only given us some very clear tactics, but you've revealed to us, I think, the heart of someone who succeeds in this way, right? The common attempt and why most people don't succeed at working by professional referral is they come in very one-sided of like, oh, I understand that you can refer me. Here's a stack of my cards. Can I tell you all about myself? Here's the clients I'm looking for, right? If they even go that far. And we all know that doesn't go very far in life and in business. And yet we think that somehow there's a shortcut. If I just cut to the chase and tell them what I need and put my cards on their desk, that it's going to work. It's like fast is slow and slow is fast. And what I heard you just describe is you genuinely come in with a spirit of like, I want to help you. I have an audience because I serve, between 50 and 75 families a year. I have an audience, and I would like to get to know you to see how I can help get people to know about you and get my clients working with you. And when you come with that spirit of like, here's what I have, how can I use this to help you? How can I use who I know and what I know to benefit you and to help you and to serve you? All of a sudden, people are very attracted to that because it's uncommon, right? There's a great book by, is it Adam Smith? Anyway, it's called Give and Take. It talks about how 20% of the world are takers, 20% are givers, and 60% are traders. In other words, they trade, right? And it's very uncommon for somebody to be a true giver where they just want to give, right? And I think probably most of us are traders on the higher end of the spectrum of wanting to be givers, right? And what I hear is that those who are most successful, those activities that you just described, is really coming from very much kind of a giving mentality of like, I really want to serve you. I want to know who your clients are. Do you find in those conversations, Aubrey, that it gets pretty clear who's also a giver versus who's maybe a taker when you're kind of interviewing those professionals?
Yes. And if I'm going to be recommending a business, I need to be able to meet with them and hear their value system and what's important to them. Because just like with clients, not everybody's going to be a good fit for me either. So I'm not just going to refer someone that I saw on Google. Like, I have to make sure that it's a good fit. I think that you can definitely pick up the vibe on people that are just the takers or the traders, as you call them. I haven't heard that before, but I like that. I think that if you can really sense when someone is really coming from service, and you can't fake that. It can't be a gimmick,
Yeah.
right? Like, you actually have to invest in it completely. I think when you have conversations with people, you can really just sort of tell by how they're presenting their business. And remember, these conversations are like half an hour over tea in my office, right? So it's a casual sort of setting, but they'll tell you kind of everything that you want to know. And as you said, a lot of it has to do with, are they just really kind of sharing about themselves with no curiosity about sort of anything else? And I will say, in my networking groups, my give versus take ratio is probably like 75% give to 25% take.
Wow.
In part because, there are a trillion real estate agents out there, and some people have real estate agents in their family, or they, whatever the case may be. So I give a lot more than I get back. So even though 40% of mine is in professional referrals, I'm still giving out a lot more of that in my networking groups for sure. And that's totally fine with me, because that if someone comes into that group and they are just wondering what they can get out of it, then it's not going to be a good fit. It's just not, because they're constantly going to be disappointed about what they're not getting, without realizing that if they would just give a whole lot more, they would totally get back in return.
Totally. It's right in front of them, right? It's right in front of all of us, right? Right? It's like giving is the answer to getting, but you have to give without anticipation of the get, right? And when
Yep.
we do that, all of a sudden it starts to flow, right? As soon as you really start to give authentically of like, I really want to help you, and all of a sudden they feel that, and there's this energy that that reciprocation, it wants to come back, right? Now, you recently started selling in a new community, Seabrook, which tends to be, it looks like a little bit of vacation spot for you and your family. Love seeing the pictures of you guys out there. And you decided to take real estate. Now I'm curious, because sometimes people would be like, hey, this is work, and that's where we go to get away from work, right? And you've chosen to really turn that into another hub. Now, it tells me one thing, that you must really love what you do, right? To actually want to go serve people in that way. But talk to me about the decision of actually going there, not going there for business, but turning that into business. And how are you doing that so quickly? And I think we know the answer, but we'd love to hear kind of the tactical behind it.
Yeah. So really, it came out of this idea that I actually wanted to spend a summer in Seabrook with my children, away from our kind of home base, where they could hike and bike and swim and kayak and do all of the things that I wanted them to do all summer without having their faces in the phones. So the idea was that I would come back to Portland, every few weeks or so, and sort of line up listing appointments and what have you, sort of in a groupings, but that for the most part, I would be in Seabrook. And so what I was doing from Seabrook is I was working from there. I was still working, but, really much more, again, with much more intention of how I want to use my time while I'm there. So one of the ways that I use my time while I'm there is we have this beautiful wraparound porch, and I sit out on the porch and I read, like I actually had time to read this summer. And by the way, we still closed like 16 transactions this summer. So I wasn't on break, but I just use my time differently. And one thing I was finding was that, because Seabrook is a community, for those of you who don't know, it's on the northern coast of Washington, about 45 minutes north of Aberdeen, and it's kind of near the Olympic National Forest, so Ruby Beach and that area. So, but yes, this is a town that was created about 20 years ago, and so each neighborhood has kind of come in phases, and I live in a newer phase. So what I was doing is I was sitting out on my porch and I'm reading, and you just find people who are, as people do on vacation, looking at the homes that are for sale on the market. And I'm sitting out there on my porch and I'm reading, and you literally can hear them talking about like, gosh, maybe we could get in to see that house. That would be kind of cool. And I'm like, well, I mean, if that's not a sign, I don't know what is. So once I started really paying attention to that, I realized like, you know what, like, I may as well, because I could just walk right over to the house. I know all of the agents over at Seabrook Real Estate. So I'm already licensed in Washington, so may as well. And that's kind of how it started. And actually, today we are just getting another one under contract there. And I think that what we did in Portland Metro is really just what we sort of did in Seabrook, which is I'm very much a part of the community. I'm very much part of the social media groups. I'm very, again, of service and ask questions about, people and kind of, what they're doing and activities. And I'm very involved in that way. And also I've created a directory of all of the people that we as homeowners use in Seabrook. So for, carpentry, or for landscaping, or for cleaners, or for caterers, like everything that people who are buying in Seabrook could possibly need. And then on the selling side of things, it's a small community. So it's kind of that word of mouth. And because I'm one of the few agents that actually lives in Seabrook, and I'm there at this point about 6 months out of the year, but I am very familiar with the community, I become sort of that person. But one of the things that's been cool is that I am using an extension of my Portland professionals, and I'm bringing them up to Seabrook. So we had window coverings done by Gotcha Covered of West Portland. We have a roof and siding, and actually a fairly significant project coming up with my roofing company that is based here. We are using inspection teams that, although they are based in Yamhill County, the brother-in-law owns one in Olympia, which is about an hour and a half from Seabrook. So it's pretty great, because what we're finding is that we are still able to use the same professionals, just kind of in a different way. And so it hasn't been difficult, because I'm not really reinventing the wheel. It's the same wheel.
I love it. Yeah, you figured out a model that worked, and now you're taking it to Seabrook, right? And
Yep.
I think anybody out there, again, that wants to say, boy, I would love to have a robust referral business, so much so that I had to turn people away at a certain time of year and really invest back into the community and into these people, right? Through client events, through a partner appreciation event. Like, how fun would that be? That's an ideal business. You've just given us a framework by which to do that, right? Is really come from a giver's heart, a giver's spirit of finding the right professionals who I would say right are upstream from a real estate transaction. And
it's fun, Justin. Like, that's the thing, is like, it's fun. The idea of picking up a phone and calling people I don't know sounds horrifying to me. And some people may feel like that's their comfort zone. It is not mine. For me, it's like, this is easy as breathing. Mm-hmm. I'm just using people that I love and want to succeed. It's just networking to me, when done in the right way with the right groups, is very comfortable, because it's just connecting with people like in a real way. And it's a fun, having these client events to really promote these referrals, and then having my gratitude dinner, which is only for my professional and service providers. It's a way of just connecting with people in a real way, so you can really get to know them better, and they can really get to know you better. It's pretty awesome.
I believe that much of the trouble that the real estate industry has found itself in, whether it be agents who barely make a living wage, right? Or whether it be lawsuits, right? Against one belief that I have is that much of that would go away if real estate agents, who I believe most of them come into the industry because they do have a heart to give. They love serving other people. And yet the industry teaches. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And then they come in and they're taught tactics that are contrary to that, right? Which is call to get something, interrupt people at all costs and try and get something from them. And if you go through the numbers enough, right, even though there's 95 people that didn't need anything. Like, you find the couple that are willing. And I think it just wears on people, and it wears on the consumer. And as a result, we're in the spot where there's some less than great results that are coming of it. And I truly believe that if people stayed aligned with their DNA, which is, you got into this industry because you want to be a giver, because you want to give back to other people, because you want to help grow them, and follow this strategy, right? You and I both believe in, that you would actually find great joy, great success. And you've had consumers that would love to hear from you, because you're not calling to get something, you're calling to check in and to give value to them, to great professionals who you've vetted. Right.
And I can check in. So for example, I have this event coming up, and this afternoon, I'm going to be spending hours reaching out to all of my past clients and present clients and say, hey, I'd love to invite you and your family to this event down in Wilsonville, which has, llamas and a petting zoo and pumpkins and some sort of crazy bounce park and all of this other stuff. I'm not calling to ask them for anything. Yeah. And then one thing I forgot to mention is at each of my events, we have two very important things that we do. Number one is I ask for sponsors at my events of people that I'm already working with to see if they would like to promote their business. Because I think it's really important, again, to get in front of as many people as possible for my service providers, because look, these are hundreds of my folks. Yeah. You can totally be involved with that. The other thing is we have a nonprofit part of it as well. So our 2024 commitment has been Make-A-Wish. And so we ask at every event if people are willing to, if we're going to be serving cider or coffee or whatever, there's no charge at all, but we would love to do that by donation. If you have a buck or two to spare, and put it in for Make-A-Wish. So we have both the professional as well as the nonprofit ability to kind of fill that out at our events as well, so that we're coming again from a place of service to our professional partners, and then a place of service for our nonprofit partner as well.
I love it. So good. Aubrey, would you do me a favor? Obviously, you've been a part of the ProInsight platform. Just share maybe one thing that you've gotten from us. Obviously, we're growing for those that don't know, we're an exclusive platform. We have about 4,000. We will have about 4,000 real estate agents, one in every community, about 4,000 lenders in each of those communities, and then about 40,000 professionals from other industries, all of whom are collaborating together to serve the client in a higher way. Just share maybe one thing that you've learned that'll help reinforce it, that's what we should double down on as a company. So please help us see what's been valuable for you. I'd love to hear it.
Yeah. So what ProInsight has been focusing on a lot right now, I know, are kind of the real estate and the lender folks. And I think that a lot of real estate agents kind of shy away from groups that might be real estate heavy because they feel like it's competition. But the fact is that real estate works its best for all parties when it's collaborative. And so one thing that I love about ProInsight is that I'm really able to connect with other real estate agents in other parts of the country or part of the state who can then be potential referral partners, because part of that 100% referral strategy, which was not on my radar for a long time, but actually because of ProInsight, it actually sort of sparked this idea with me, is really about right now, about 25% of my business is now agent to agent referral. And so the idea that this rising tide kind of lifts all boats is a really important thing in real estate, is that I'm not here to compete with you. I think we can learn from each other. Whenever you have spotlights on a particular service provider industry, I always find it really fascinating, no matter what part of the world that they're in, because you get to learn things that you just didn't know before. You had someone on there, a lender on there a couple of months ago that I thought I've seen around for a long time. I think it was Karen Oxner, and she is kind of a powerhouse. I've seen her around a lot before, but I didn't really know too much about her. But listening to her, I thought this could be another person that I could do business with. She knows her stuff. I think she has a heart for service. She knows her programs and all of that. So I think having really people at the top of their industry is really what I've gained from ProInsight, and sort of how to leverage and utilize that.
I appreciate you saying that. That really, again, helps us to double down on the things that are super valuable for our clients. We're very careful about who's in. I mean, we do have opportunities to teach everybody these principles, but as far as being a part of our signature network, the average agent's closing 37.2 deals per year. And so it becomes a bit of a top agent mastermind, all centered around how do we work by professional referral. So
Yeah.
again, you lead that charge in a great way. So we really appreciate you saying those kind things about us, put you on the spot right here in front of everybody, made you say something nice about us. But thank you for thank you for saying that. And how do people find you, Aubrey, and learn more about you and follow you and pattern what you're doing? To kind of tell us how to best find you online.
Yeah, so I have Instagram and Facebook, or as my children call it, old book, but it's still the zone that I'm most comfortable in. And frankly, that's where most of my clients are on socials, just based on sort of their age bracket as well. So on Instagram, it's just Aubrey Martin 76, and then on socials, it's Aubrey Martin KWSC or Martin Family Real Estate on Facebook. So I'm pretty active on both of those outlets. I've been encouraged to do a little bit of stuff on YouTube, but I feel like only my 11-year-old really watches YouTube, but I could be missing out on something big. I've also been encouraged to sort of do more things on LinkedIn, but again, there's only so many hours in the day. And one funny little secret about me is that I actually sort of abhor social media. Like, I really am not a fan. I really like seeing people's like photos of their dogs and their kids. But beyond that, I really am not a fan of it. But I will say it's been a great source for me to be able to really promote other people. And so you can use social media for good without getting sort of sucked down into the bog and the drama of it, if you just kind of really stay focused on what you're there to do.
Well, I think, again, that shows your heart, right? Which is, if it were your preference entirely, you would probably not be on social media, but you realize that it's a great platform to be able to serve and highlight other people.
It is.
And let's just say that that's the theme of how to actually do this at a high level, is come from that heart and that spirit. Look for other professionals that you can put on a pedestal and really elevate, and watch what happens, right? Watch what happens as you do that very strategically and consistently. So Aubrey, I'm such a fan. Thank you so much for all that you contribute to our community, to this podcast community now. And I look forward to continuing to see you rise and see many more agents kind of patterning their businesses after what you've really pioneered. So thank you so much. Appreciate you.
Thank you, Justin. And we'll see you on Thursday for the next ProInsight meeting.
Yes. And my final request of everybody listening here today are 3 simple words, and they are: go think bigger. Thanks again, Aubrey, for helping us do that today.
Thank you.
Now, before you go, remember, big thinkers and high achievers take action. Here's one way to do this. Find me on social media and send me in a direct message